Hey guys, welcome to this educational video that I've created for clients of Vision PT Hunter Street. I've been noticing lately that a fair few of our clients are sort of maybe misunderstanding or not really acknowledging how important nutrition is in their long-term weight loss journey. It is fundamentally the most important thing prior to exercise that we must sort of take into consideration if we not only want to lose a substantial amount of weight, but also keep that weight for the long term. And it's really about understanding energy balance. And I'd like to offer this educational video to help you kind of maybe get a grasp as to why we sort of focus on macros so much and why the food diary is such a powerful and useful tool. I'd like to just introduce the energy balance video, the importance of nutrition for long-term sustainable weight loss results. So energy balance. Understand the impact of energy balance to achieve your weight-related goals. Throughout the day, we are constantly consuming energy, calories, from the foods and beverages we consume, while we are simultaneously burning energy as our bodies carry out metabolic processes to keep us alive and moving. The balance of our daily energy intake and expenditure is, intuitively enough, referred to as energy balance, and this is what largely dictates our changes in body composition. We burn some amount of energy every single day, and unless we're doing a pretty extreme fasting protocol, we consume energy in the form of foods, beverages, and dietary supplements. In simplified terms, energy balance refers to the relative daily balance between energy consumed and energy burned. Just to touch on the term calorie and a little bit of insight actually what that actually means. So the word calorie brings a little bit of confusion when we apply it to the nutrition world. A calorie is a very, very small unit of energy. So when we talk about energy intake or expenditure, we typically refer to kilocalories. 1 kilocalorie equals 1,000 calories, which are often shortened to describe calories, but with a capital C. When someone indicates that they ate 2,300 calories yesterday, they actually ate 2,300 kilocalories, which is 2,300,000 little calories. You might also see people using kilojoules as a unit. 1 calorie equals 4.184 joules, or 1 kilocalorie is equal to 4.184 kilojoules. So really just a bit of an information there about the terms of the word calorie and how it's sometimes written. So when it's calorie with a little c, it's actually a much smaller unit of energy than calorie with a capital C. And a calorie, the term with a capital C, is actually just a short and abbreviated version of kilocalorie. So moving on to the components of energy intake. And there's 4 components of energy intake, which is your macros. And we ingest our kilocalories, or calories with a capital C, in the form of macronutrients, which include carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and alcohols. For example, 1 gram of carbohydrate provides about 4 kilocalories, or calories with a capital C. 1 gram of protein provides about 4 kilocalories as well. 1 gram of fat provides about 9 kilocalories, and 1 gram of alcohol provides about 7 kilocalories. As such, we can estimate our daily energy intake by summing the energy provided by our daily intake of protein, fat, carbohydrate, and alcohol. Meaning, when we track our food and we use the correct portion size, we can actually calculate how much energy, we can roughly calculate how much energy we've ingested over a given day. Maintenance macros, meaning how much food I need to eat to neither gain nor lose weight. So for example, 175 grams of carb, or 700 kilocalories, 155 grams of protein, or 620 kilocalories, or 65 grams of fat, or 585 kilocalories, totaling to 1905 kilocalories, or calories with capital C, per day to maintain my weight as I am right now, neither gaining nor losing. So energy expenditure. While energy intake is quite simple and it's only made up of those 4 macros, the total daily energy expenditure, or TDEE, is rather complicated. So just as we can partition our total energy intake into contributions from distinct macronutrients, we can also partition our energy expenditure into distinct compartments. The total daily energy expenditure, or TDEE, describes the total number of kilocalories, or calories with a capital C, we burn in a given day. The TDEE is made up of 4 components: your basal metabolic rate, BMR, the thermic effect of feeding, TEF, exercise activity thermogenesis, EAT, and non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT, or NEAT. To break down these 4 components, basal metabolic rate describes the energy required to simply keep our body on, at rest, assuming we lay in bed all day without moving or eating. It is simply enough energy expended to keep the lights on and keep you from dying. The thermic effect of feeding describes the energy used in the process of eating, digesting, metabolizing, and storing food. Exercise activity thermogenesis. This describes the energy used during structured, intentional exercise. And non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This describes the energy used for any movement that isn't purposeful exercise. That would include walking around your school or office, doing yard work, taking out the trash, or even fidgeting in your chair. What I'd like you just to note is the percentage of energy of 100% per day. Each one of these contributes to your TDEE. Your basal metabolic rate takes up 70% of your energy expenditure. The thermic effect of feeding, meaning digesting, metabolizing, storing food, accounts for 15%. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT, accounts for 10%, and any structured exercise accounts for approximately 5%. That is if you actually do any exercise at all. So 5% is how much energy structured exercise contributes to our energy expenditure. Not a whole lot. So just to illustrate the point a little bit further, here's a visual representation of our energy expenditure where BMR takes up the majority of energy spent, where exercise structured activity accounts for the smallest part of the pie graph, 5%. And that is only if you do structured activity on a given particular day. So this is where it is important to understand that while exercise is important, in terms of weight loss journeys or losing weight, it is the smallest effect. Exercise is not a useful way of burning weight or fat out of our body if we do not achieve an energy deficit using nutrition, and hence why understanding what you've ingested, tracking and recording your food aligned with a specific goal is so important and must be considered first. So back to energy balance. Your body wants to have your energy balance exactly as this little scale is demonstrating. Energy in, energy out. Energy consumed is equal to that of energy burnt. This makes the body happy. It means you are not starving or dying. Okay, and that we're ingesting enough energy to account for the energy burnt throughout a given day. On the left, you can see that there's energy consumed are made up of those 4 macronutrients. You have 100% control of what you eat. Energy expended on the right is made up of BMR, 70%. You have no control over how your basal metabolic reacts at any given time. It goes high, it goes low. It adapts to any given situation depending on what the body needs. The thermic effect of feeding, 15% you have some control by including more protein-based food, because protein requires more energy to digest than carb or fats. Your non-exercise activity, again you have some control. You can be more active throughout the day and expend more calories. And exercise, activity thermogenesis, or EAT, you have 100% control. So you can control how much you train. You know, there's a famous quote or variation of a quote that if you have a giant tree, an oak, massive tree, hundreds of years old that you want to cut down, you should spend 4 hours sharpening the axe and 1 hour cutting it, because that would make it easier. Okay, a sharp axe would cut the tree down faster. And this is exactly how you should consider nutrition. Every week, you should be focusing majority of your time on not only planning, but designing and executing a nutrition strategy that works for you, that you can replicate daily, consistently, and weekly until the job is done, or into a matter that you're satisfied with your weight loss. Then, while you're being in that energy deficit, adding the extra activity and training and cardio and weights is going to increase the chance of that success. The golden rule for weight loss is energy consumed must be less than energy burnt. There is no other law, okay? For you to use body fat as a fuel, you must run out. Your body fat is excess fuel you've consumed over many, many years. It is stored away because you did not use that fuel at the time that you consumed it. So the energy consumed of your carbohydrates, proteins, and fats must be less than your energy expended. You cannot lose weight if your nutritional intake is either at a maintenance level or equal to what you're expending, or if it's in a surplus. If it's in a surplus, then you will gain weight. This is a particular interesting point. If you have lost a certain amount of weight, you are therefore a smaller human and therefore require less energy to operate. So if you have lost a bunch of weight, whatever that may be, and then you stop looking after your nutrition, you may have found that you have gained weight rather quickly back. It is because you have returned to your previous nutritional behavior of overeating, even more so, because your energy requirement to maintain that smaller frame or smaller body is less than what you originally started. So let's put some of this information to a practical case study, and I'll use me as an example. Using vision macros and numbers and a goal that's reasonable for me and for my size. So my personal maintenance macros are 175 grams of carbs, 155 grams of protein, and 65 grams of fat, or 1905 kilocalories per day to maintain my size. That's how much energy I need to stay exactly where I am. If I wanted to lose 2 kilograms in 9 weeks, my personal weight loss macros would be as follows: 145 grams of carbs, 130 grams of protein, 55 grams of fat, totaling 1595 kilocalories per day. So that means I would need to stay approximately in a 310 kilocalorie deficit per day, or about a 19.5 deficit, to lose 2 kilograms in 9 weeks. This is only true if I record my macros accurately 7 days a week. Okay, so I have to make sure that what I'm consuming is in a deficit to what I need. Now, if I was to be successful and lose 2 kilograms in 9 weeks, that original maintenance macros would actually start to drop and get lower. It might not be as low as 1595, but it certainly would be lower. So if I was to maintain that 2 kilogram weight loss and I returned back to my previous maintenance macros of 1905, I could potentially put myself into a surplus and therefore easily regain which is why I must always be conscious of what I'm consuming based on my body type, my size, and make sure that I'm eating in a maintenance level that actually is suitable for me. So the effects of sneaky extras. So I need to make sure that I am at that 19.5 decrease in an attempt to give the best chance of success of a 2 kilo weight loss in 9 weeks. That's 310 calories less per day. However, that is not a whole lot for me. Okay, I'm not a particularly big guy, so losing any form of body fat for me is actually extremely difficult, and is extremely harder for smaller people to lose the same amount of weight as someone who is larger, because simply a larger person just carries more mass around and therefore just naturally expends more energy, whereas a little person like me, who's hyper efficient and hyper trained and used to exercise, requires a lot of effort to slowly use up my fat stores to try to get leaner. So, assuming that I'm staying 100% perfect on my food every day, and which I don't, if I was to successfully plan out and eat my daily intake at a 19.5 decrease, and I start to cave at the end of the day, and I have my 2 dark chocolate, 2 squares, 20 grams of Lindt dark chocolate, which takes moments to eat, a few seconds, I will have cut my energy deficit for that day in half. So I'm no longer at a 19.5 decrease in energy consumption, I'm now only 10. So if I did that every day, to put into perspective, it would not take me 9 weeks to lose 2 kilos. It would take me 18 weeks, because I've cut my deficiency in energy by half. You could assume it would take me double the time. If I had 1 beer, I would reduce my energy intake from 19.5 to 9%, so a touch over half. 1 glass of red wine, it says 9, but it's probably closer to 10, again by half. And if I had 2 Tim Tam biscuits, at the end of the day, being completely perfect with my rest of my food, I would have gone from a 19.5% decrease in energy to only a 6%. So, if I had those 2 Tim Tams daily, it would take me not 9 weeks, it would take me triple the time. Maybe 24, maybe 36 weeks to achieve the same weight loss, because I'm decreasing my energy deficit from 19.5 to only 6, which is nothing. I'm very hardly recordable. So this is assuming that I'm actually eating perfect amount of food that is perfect on my macros, and those macros aren't infallible. They are best guess estimate based on your activity levels, your body type, how much lean muscle mass you have, and various other factors, including age. So you can see that even if your best intentions are to eat healthy, which is great, you are not guaranteeing you're in a weight loss deficit. So eating healthy does not mean a weight loss deficit. You must know what you're consuming to the best of your ability. Knowing what you're consuming allows us to problem solve when things aren't working. But if you're not tracking anything, we have no idea what to do, or no idea what you're ingesting, and we don't know what to change to actually move forward. So you might be thinking, well, what's the point of exercise if it's not the main priority? So does exercise help? And yes, it does, but it is the long way around. And the concern is that the vast majority of clients in our studio are hyper focused on doing more activity and spending more time trying to get the calories burnt than actually spending a similar amount of time preparing their energy or understanding their energy intake and preparing their food. So when someone says they don't have time to do their food diary, then they're trying to expend their energy. I get a little confused, because for me, better time spent preparing your nutritional intake will generate way more results than if you try to add more exercise to your week. So assuming that 30 minutes of exercise for a 70 kilogram person, and these are Harvard statistics, so I used a Harvard research paper to base these on. General weightlifting burns absolutely bugger all calories. A cross trainer for 30 minutes straight burns a pretty decent amount, 324, same as indoor cycling at 278, and walking at pretty fast pace, 175 kilocalories per half hour effort. Now, what role does exercise play in our weight loss journey? It is not about energy being burnt at the time of exercise, even though it does help. Weights training helps build lean muscle and contributes to a higher BMR. The higher your muscle mass, or the more muscle mass you can maintain, the higher you can keep your BMR. That's why we focus so strongly about using our bioscan to note how much muscle mass we have, because at the end of the day, we do not want to lose much muscle. If we're doing something drastic with our nutrition intake and we're losing significant amounts of muscle, then you are reducing the chance of future fat loss, because muscle burns the most amount of energy. So do more weights. If you are someone who's significantly trying to lose a big bunch of weight and you're only doing one session a week of weight bearing activity, it's not enough, and you need to increase that to 2 to 3 minimum. So cardio training is vital for maintaining your cardiovascular system, meaning your heart and lungs and associated systems. It can also be effective increasing a calorie deficit, because any activity obviously does burn energy. However, training, whether cardio or weight bearing activity, is about building a healthier body that will last you into older life. So thinking back to my little weight loss goal of 2 kilos in 9 weeks, if I'm in a 310 calorie deficit or so, and I'm pretty accurate with my food, and I added a weightlifting session or a PT session, I'm going to add another 108 kilocalories to that deficit. Instead of being 310, I can ramp it up to 418. I'm increasing the chance of weight loss. That's awesome. Now, if I record my food pretty accurately and I jump on the cross trainer and I go for 30 minutes straight, I'm going to add another 324 kilocalories, doubling my energy deficit. That's going to increase my chance of weight loss. But if my food is not accurate to my weight loss goal, and I could be over consuming my intake despite quote unquote eating healthy and expending 30 minutes on the cross trainer and burning 324 calories, I might be just undoing the additional intake I'm ingesting that's not aligned with my goal. And I might find myself continuing to hold my weight steady. So if you find that you are not losing weight, then you are simply ingesting as much as you're expending. And we need to upset the apple cart and get it into that weight loss deficit. And we must start with actually knowing what your intake is on a daily basis. It is not about adding more volume of exercise. If you want to make the training effective and your time spent in your gym to be more effective, then you must be in that weight loss deficit. If you're in a weight loss deficit, according to your specific goal every 9 weeks, adding the training is going to greatly increase the chance of success. But not understanding our intake you might be just essentially spinning your wheels in the mud, hoping that more exercise will solve the problem. So, considerations. So obviously I've painted a picture that seems to be the solution is quite simple: do food diary, get results, but that's not always the case. There are other considerations and many factors that could affect your energy balance. For example, hormonal imbalances in your body can disrupt how your body uses energy. Different sorts of medication may influence. So someone who's been training for some considerable time burns so much less energy to do the same work than someone who has just started training, because their body is more efficient at training and using energy as fuel. Factors such as incorrect labels on foods, incorrect portion sizes. But at the end of the day, we cannot rest on those excuses unless we actually have some tangible data to actually refer to. So if you are sort of stuck in a bit of a hole and you are maintaining your weight and not moving forward, the first consideration is that we are not in an energy deficit on a daily basis to actually instigate using fat stores as a fuel source. How do we change that? Disregarding everything else. Disregarding any hormonal issues, PCOS, medications, training considerations, anything like that. We must find out, what are we eating? So, before you start to try to add significantly more amount of exercise, we want to make that exercise worthwhile and actually hyper effective. And we need to be in that energy deficit. So it's time to sort of take a step back and start recording what you're consuming, and then either bringing it to myself or your trainer for actually a review. And that must include all your treats, snacks, alcohols, anything that's in addition to your healthy lifestyle. Okay, just get all the cards out on the desk. You may find that some very few simple changes might actually get you back on the track of success, because all those little extras that we don't count might actually be slowing you down.